Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first FCPS1 family webinar for the 2024-25 school year. Each month, we will highlight different helpful topics that families and staff can tune into virtually or watch the recording at a later time through viewing our Fauquier Highlights newsletter. If you're new to our webinars, throughout the evening, you may ask questions or respond to questions throughout the evening through the chat or the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. And one of our panelists will help answer those questions throughout the evening. Within the chat, we have shared a translated message to any families that may need language support. Tonight's topic is FCPS1 technology question and answer. We will share the most commonly asked questions about technology in our school division and allow our audience to ask any questions that they have. On our panel tonight, we have our lead technology staff for the school division, along with several ITRTs throughout the school. We're going to start the evening by introducing ourselves. My name is Christy Yonke, and I am the Family Engagement Coordinator for FCPS1. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce Tina Ferentz. And Ms. Tina, what do you do?
I am the Interim Director of Technology, and I am here to help assist with anything that you all need.
Okay. And I'm Lisa Stafford. I am the Educational Technology Leader for the district, and I'm also here to help assist with many of our platforms that our teachers and parents and students use.
And I'm Kathy Medlock. I'm the ITRT over at Cedar Lake. I'm Jessica Shrindia.
I'm Amanda Griffith, the ITRT at Auburn. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're going to kick things off with our presentation, and Matt is going to lead us in that.
So in just a second, I'm going to go ahead and share our screen, but I also want to let you know if you have problems with audio, please feel free to put something in the chat. And then again, as we go through this, if you have questions, add those to the chat, and then we'll get to them at the end and answer everything. So we're going to go through things one by one. If you are unable to see the screen, let us know. You should see that here now. So as I said, I'm Tina Ferentz. I'm currently the Director of Technology for Fauquier County Public Schools. And I'm excited to share a little bit of information with you regarding technology. But we did want to mention that if you thought that this was the fireside chat, that is actually here at 7 o'clock at Fauquier High School. So just want to give you that heads up that the fireside chat is at 7 p.m. in Fauquier High School's auditorium.
A lot of us will be in attendance of that.
Yeah, so, okay. So I'm going to start us off with student Gmail accounts that we have for Fauquier County Public Schools. Recently, I've gotten some emails from students asking to be allowed to send their parents an email or that their parents were trying to reach them. I want to explain that our students are only able to send email within Fauquier County Public Schools network. So our FCPS1schools.net account, as well as our FCPS1.org. And that is a walled environment, and that is to protect our students' information and from them getting spam, from them possibly getting a data breach. This is the best way to make sure all of our students are safe. At the elementary level, they're, I think, only allowed to email teachers. At the secondary level, they're allowed to email each other if they needed to. But we do talk about the importance of only using their email, their school email, for school-related business, whether it's to contact their teacher to ask them a question. Perhaps, you know, like, when is my assignment due? Or I turned it in, did you get it? Or here's a copy of that. They can do that information, but they can't email outside companies. We also have that request from students too. We do allow some colleges through to email students as they start to apply for scholarships in college, but that's the exception to our rule. we can't possibly go through and allow every parent account. It's just not manageable for us on that end. So the best way for us to do that and to protect our students is to have a very walled environment so they can only email within our system. And again, that is for their safety and their protection. So we just want to share that with you. And I know occasionally there have been parents who have asked about, well, we need to share pictures with our child for their project they're working on, and you still can't email them. The best way to share a picture or a file with your child's Google account would be actually download the Google Drive app on your phone, log in as your child, upload those documents, and then you can log out as your child. But that's important that you do that. And while I speak about logging in and out as your child, please make sure that if you're logged in at your personal computer at home as your child, make sure that you either log out of them and also make sure that if you're logged in as your personal Gmail account and your child goes into Schoology to do an assignment, that you make sure you log out, because sometimes then the document comes across as you, and the teacher will often look and go, oh, wait, I don't have a student by that name. Well, you're not a student, you're a parent, but you ended up getting added to their roster because they had done their assignment, like logged in as you into Gmail. So just, help your child learn to navigate logging in and out of Google on your personal home computer. If you have a secondary child, have them use their Chromebook to do that. That way they know that they're logged in as you. So that's kind of my spiel on email. But again, it's just, if we do that to protect them. We also, some of the things that we teach our students as we go through, especially at the secondary level, is that keep your personal life personal and your professional life professional, and their professional life is on the student. We all occasionally send a personal email to work email from work, but they should be using it if you as a parent choose to allow them to have a Gmail account or some other kind of account, then they can use that for personal business. Or they use your account if they're working on something like that. So we just ask them to keep things separate. And that ties into our acceptable use policy. So we ask students, we ask you when you're registering your children through the online registration to sign off that you have read the acceptable use policy. It's lengthy, but some of the things that you would want to point out to you is that school Chromebooks are for school use only, and we're going to talk about Chromebooks in a little bit. That they're professional when they're using their school email, when they're using their devices, that they are taking care of their equipment, that they're not doing anything that would bring harm to themselves or our network while on our division network, and that they're not trying to work around our filtering system. And we do have 2 filters in place in Fauquier County. We have the one that anybody who's on our network, whether you're on a PC, a Chromebook, a phone, you're filtered, but our student Chromebooks have additional filtering in place so that if they are at home with their Chromebook, our filtering rules still apply. So we ask our students to make sure that they are following our guidelines and rules so that they are not going to be in violation of an acceptable use policy. If they go into violation of the acceptable use policy, they could lose their privileges to their email or to their school Chromebook, which means then their teachers would have to come up with an alternate assignment, or perhaps that they can only get their Chromebook when it's necessary for a class assignment. So I just wanted to make you aware, and even if they brought in their own personal device, they still have to abide by all the school rules and policies and our network policies and our acceptable use policy. And that, along with those personal devices that I wanted to mention, is at the discretion of the building principal. We know phones are not allowed during the school day, but some people like to bring in their own personal laptop. We don't recommend that for various reasons. One of which is that they're always on the guest network, which has limitations. And 2, teachers are unable to monitor what your child is doing on their own personal computer. But I wanted to share those things. And then Stafford, I thought you had made a comment about acceptable use policy earlier, and I apologize for putting on the spot.
That the Chromebooks, the devices that they use are managed by the district, by Fauquier County Public Schools. And so with that, there really is no expectation for the students to have any privacy to that device. You know, because it is managed by us, we can get into it and, you know, look through if need be, if there's like a situation that requires that. So just having that understanding that it is not their personal device, it is owned and managed by Fauquier County. And so therefore we have our filters in place, and we have the right to kind of go in there and see what we need to see if it comes to that.
And so we don't tend to do that unless there is an issue that something pops up. And along with that line, I just want to explain the one filter that we talked about that stays on the student Chromebook at all times. It's called LineWise and ClassWise. Teachers have the ability to control what's going on in their classroom and can block certain sites during their class period. They can also refocus the student if need be. But we also have a filtering report that goes to our principals, so that if your child would happen to attempt to search for something that maybe would be inappropriate, the school principal, school counselors actually get a flag notice. A lot of the times they'll look closely and go, oh, that's part of the classroom assignment. So for instance, something like in health and PE, maybe talking about vaping and drugs, when the student's doing research for that class, they know, okay, this is going on. But there are other things that they may have to call your child in and say, hey, did you mean to search for this? Or what did you want to do with that? So I wanted you to be aware that we do alert our faculty when there is something that shows as a concern. And I think that's it for my part right now. And so I'm going to pass it to Miss Medlock, who is our ITRT at Cedar Lee Middle School, and she's going to talk to you about Chromebook care and insurance.
So I'm going to talk to you about Chromebook. This little guy right here, this is the Chromebook that your student has. In middle school and in high school, they get one and they take it home with them, they bring it to class every day, and they carry it until they're a senior in high school, and then they return it back to the county. And it's a borrowed Chromebook, so it's not for theirs to keep. So a couple of things that we want to talk about are Chromebook care. So we always recommend they carry for it at home and at school. So proper book bag, that is nice. Would be nice to have a place that a compartment that would take care of it, like a little cushion compartment for it. But if not, then also to talk to your student about, you know, not throwing the book bag when they get home or in class, and things like that. And I try and talk to them about it also.
And I would say that is probably one of the biggest reasons for damage to systems is that kids forget that they have a Chromebook in their laptop and they throw it across the room.
Right. Yeah. Also not putting any heavy objects on it. It is a little bit more delicate. Protective cases, they all come with a protective case. And I see a lot of kids taking them off, and I always advise them to always keep it on there. It's there to protect them, to protect the Chromebook. They can get damaged a lot more easily if they don't have the case on them. And the complaint that I get is that they're heavy, but it's a little bit heavier, but it's not really that much heavier. So don't let them say that
No different than having to put a case on their
on their phone.
phone.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can also get one of those little protective sleeves. That's just, I've seen a couple of kids with those, which is nice. Also, when they're holding it, not to carry it by the lid. I see a lot of them holding it because then it breaks the hinge cover in there. Also, making sure that when something does happen to it, to let the ITRT know right away, because the sooner we can get it and fix it, the better, the less damage. Liquid, that's been a big thing for me. I've had 2 liquid damages already, so making sure that liquid stays away. Food also stays away from the Chromebook. Food can get into the keys and they stop working, the keyboard can get damaged, things like that.
It doesn't take much to have a liquid
Yeah.
spill and a
Very
serious
easy.
damage.
Yeah, I think also. So not putting stickers on. Now this one has stickers, but they're really not stuck in there. So they can put stickers in, but these are a little bit hard to undo the Chromebook protective cover. So if they want to put stickers in, I advise them to come to the ITRT. We can help them with that. Now, some common damages for these are this little piece right here, the hinge cover. The hinge cover falls off quite a bit. I don't really know why, because mine has not fallen off, and I've had mine for like 10 years now.
I think
But
the
they
newer
do.
ones are not as bad, but
Okay.
Yeah.
So when that comes off, to get that replaced really quickly, and it's not that expensive, because underneath are some little pieces like the camera, and that's how the camera gets damaged. So
There's wires and
And wires.
cables in there that
and hinges, so to make sure that that gets put back on pretty quickly. Cracked screens, I mean, it happens. Kids can trip going, in the hallway and drop the Chromebook, and it can crack a screen, so letting us know that right away.
having a pencil when they close it, not realizing there's a pencil, and they close the pencil inside the Chromebook.
Right. Also, if it gets lost, it's really important to let us know immediately when it gets lost, not a couple of days later, so that we can start looking for it. Because sometimes it's right where they left it, obviously it is, but, it's a little bit easier to find right away. Also, insurance is available, and you can see the QR code right there, so if you wanna sign up for insurance, it's $28, it covers a whole year, and it covers those damages. It also covers this, when the charger gets lost, which is a very common thing to happen.
I would say probably our biggest number one is probably the lost charger.
And now the insurance covers that, so it's really nice to have that. You just might have to fill out a claim, but it's not that big of a deal. So this alone for getting the insurance. And again, it's only $28. Go ahead and scan it. It's good for a year. I had a parent have their child just lost their computer, and luckily she had gotten it in October of last year, so she was still covered through October of this year. So it was great. It was such a relief for her.
Because a lost Chromebook or a replacement Chromebook is $380. Nobody wants to have to deal with that.
Did have a question in the chat just asking if they could still purchase, and we did put the link to the insurance in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
And if they've had it, I think we're good for now, right now, but if when in doubt, always take it to the ITRT to look over and be like, yeah, there's no damage, go ahead and check.
And then I think, we talked about the Chromebooks are definitely school use only, and filtering and all that, so.
And we're not saying that they're not, maybe gonna look at something on YouTube when they're at home, but their main purpose is to work, right?
Great, thank you.
And I just wanted to add, I know like a lot of the damages that Ms. Metlock was speaking of is kind of happening at middle school, maybe high school, at the elementary level, because students don't take their devices home. It stays at school. There is less damage from the elementary level, but that is not to say that that accidents don't happen while they're in school. I have had in the past where a device had gotten knocked off the desk, fell on the floor, and then the screen, did crack, it did damage the screen. So even though there's less damage at the elementary level, things do happen, while they're at school. I know sometimes they transport their Chromebook from maybe one class to another, or maybe they're taking their Chromebook to a library. And then, if they're not holding it properly with two hands and have a good grip on it, and it slips out of their hand and falls, again, when it hits that floor, it does tend to crack the screen.
Yeah, and we do always encourage them to put them in the book bag before they change classes. That's a huge thing, because the hallways are pretty crowded.
And if you look at the photo that is on our slideshow, you can see like there's a hinge cover is missing right here. And then when that misses, then occasionally, like this is what happens, more and more damage starts to occur. The screen starts to separate from the top. So, and a hinge cover is like $5. It is the cheapest thing that you could possibly lose, and probably the easiest thing to replace. So, please make sure your children know, hey, have you seen your ITRT to get that fixed?
We have some questions coming in.
Okay.
One was asking, is it realistic that the Chromebooks and chargers last for 6 years?
It is actually. Google for a while there, we would have said 5 years with our Macs, but what Google has extended their update window to about 8 years. So in the sense of updating it, it certainly could. In terms of wear and tear, it should, unless you have somebody who's a little bit rougher. But I've had mine right now probably for about 4 years, and I have no damage to mine. I realize I'm not a kid, but if it's taken care of, then yes. And when we look at our neighboring counties, that is a standard mode of operation too. So we look just a little bit to our west to Warren County, who's about the same size of us. That is how they do things. They give it in 6th grade. When they graduate, that's when they turn it back in, and it has lasted. Now, obviously, there are things that come up and things that change, and we evaluate as needed. But I do believe there's definitely the ability to last 6 or 7 years.
Got a question. If a Chromebook expires, will the school cover the cost of it?
Expires in the sense of
That's
like,
shelf life of.
oh, so yeah, so right now what we've done is all of our 6th graders got brand new Chromebooks. So they won't expire. But if we did have somebody who had theirs, then yes, we would, if somebody's Chromebook did not update anymore and no longer, then yes, we would fix that. And it would not cost you, it would be because it has expired, not because it's been damaged. So yes, if there is that kind of issue, but we should not have that issue. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all have, so our 7th graders have a Chromebook that should only be a year old. If for some reason your 6th grader got a used Chromebook, please let us know. Reach out to your school ITRT so that we can remedy that, because they were all supposed to get brand new ones. At the elementary level, they do have older ones, but those don't stay with them. They get, they stay with the teacher. So they don't move with them from classroom to classroom in the younger grades. They stay with their classroom teacher. So they're in 3rd grade, and Ms. Sharenzia has a set of Chromebooks. When they go to 4th grade, her Chromebooks stay with her, and they have different ones assigned to them when they get to 4th grade. Any other questions?
Are parents responsible for purchasing new chargers when they no longer work?
That's a great question, because they do sometimes expire. And that is something I think I need to get back to you on, because I understand when it does. We do have some that, we know that the cords have pinched, that they've frayed. But if it just stops working and it's in good working condition, then we can figure something out and work something out. But if it's a damaged charger, that's a whole other ballgame.
Covered.
And insurance covers chargers like Ms. Medlock and Ms. Griffith have mentioned. And there is, while we have a $28 insurance fee, there is a $7.95 one that is for lost or stolen property, not for intentional or for damage. So if you need to go that route to save a little money, but the $28 insurance, I can tell you, is well worth the money just in case. We've had ITRTs who are parents who are like, oh no, my child will need insurance. So, all right. So, okay. So our next topic is going to talking about Infinite Campus versus Schoology. What are the difference between the two? And Ms. Stafford's going to cover that.
So I'm just going to talk about probably our two largest platforms that we use in our district, and that is Infinite Campus and Schoology. And I'm just going to go quickly through the difference between the two. And then later on, Ms. Griffith will talk about how that looks for the parents on the parent end. Infinite Campus is our student information system. This is where the system or the platform that houses student information, things like their birth date, address, who the guardians are for our students. And a lot of the information coming into Infinite Campus comes from when parents enroll their children through the OLR, and that pulls that information in there. It's also the place where teachers might do attendance. It's also the place where teachers might go look and see where the parent email is, if they need to get the email contact for a parent. It's also where the teachers will go in and put their grades for every quarter, and then the final grade at the end of the year. So basically that just kind of houses all the information that we need to have our student. Parents do have a parent portal account through Infinite Campus that you can put information into as well. And Mrs. Griffith will go over that. And then the other big platform that we have is Schoology, and Schoology is our learning management system. This is where teachers are going to put assignments in, quizzes that that the students might do, and it's where the students are going to go to access those assignments, to access their assessments or quizzes that they take. It's also the place where teachers record the grades for the students based on what they earned on the assignments and quizzes. Schoology is also a way to put class documents that might be information that parents need. It's also a way to kind of communicate with students and parents. And parents do get a Schoology account that is separate from their student's account. And it also has 2 separate URLs. So I know that we've had parents trying to log into Schoology with their parent account using the student URL, but parents actually have a different URL that they use to log into. To get a parent account, and I might be kind of going into your realm. I may be going into Amanda's realm here. You do have to go to another URL to register. So if you want a parent account with Schoology, you will need to register for an account first. And having a parent account enables you to see the grades that your students are earning in their classroom. It will allow you to see, what assignments are due, what assignments might have been missed or turned in late. All that information is in there. And I think parents have the option to sign up for a weekly report that you can get. Yep. So you can have a weekly report sent to your email. So
And I'm sure Ms. Griffith will
Yep.
go over how to do that.
yeah, so she'll go to that. So, but these are the 2 biggest platforms that we have in the county that that teachers and students, well, students don't use Infinite Campus, but they do use Schoology. But parents will have accounts to this, so you'll be using it too. But it is the 2 biggest platforms that we have, and we just wanted to kind of differentiate the 2. So just think of it, Infinite Campus, as this is where my child's information is housed, and then Schoology this is where my student goes to learn and where their teacher goes to instruct. So I hope that kind of helps you kind of understand how the 2 platforms work.
And I've had somebody use the analogy is Schoology is looking out in the out the windshield for the future, and that Infinite Campus is your rear view mirror.
And if you have any, because I know I've recently have gotten some queries about, how do I log into Schoology, or I can't, my password, I can't seem to reset my password. If you contact your ITRT, they might help you with, signing up for a Schoology account. And they can send a work ticket to me so that I can help fix any issues with resetting password if you're unable to do it. So if you just contact your ITRT to let them know, hey, can you put a ticket in for me, saying, letting Mrs. Stafford know that my password isn't working.
And with that, we're going to turn that over to Amanda Griffith, who is, in addition to being an ITRT, is also a parent. So she has a really good perspective on both Infinite Campus and Schoology.
I love both these programs as a parent. I'm on them frequently. I've already told the parent she's probably going to have to cut me off because I could talk about these 2 programs forever. Infinite Campus is what you're going to use for grades, schedule, student account. That's your Google login, and also your Schoology access code. Most of you probably have already accessed all that information, but this is that main hub. The big one that you use this for every year is that OLR. But I think a lot of people just think of Infinite Campus as where they get that email every year and they go register their kid. There's actually a lot of extra information in there that you can get to, and I recommend signing in your account and looking at the stuff on the left-hand side, because there's probably more stuff in there that things even are aware. There is an app. As a parent, I have the Campus Parent, the one with the P, the icon, and then I also have the Campus Student with the S. I have both those apps on my phone. I used the parent one, but then the student one is there as well for my middle schooler, who was very anxiously waiting for her schedule to come out and was told that she could get on there and see it. So she would look at it on my phone as well. If you would ever have any issues with your Infinite Campus account, you can contact the school registrar, and they are wonderful at helping and getting you back in. Just today, I was having issues, and you can change your password. That is one thing you can do on your own if you remember your login, if your username. You can do forget password. If you would forget your password and change that on your own, you don't need to contact the school for that. However, if you can't remember your username and password, that's when contacting that school registrar is going to be really beneficial.
And they may ask you, the school registrar, if you call about that, they're probably going to ask for verification that you are who you are, that Amanda Griffith is really the parent of this child, and prove to me by telling me this information.
Over Schoology.
Okay.
So Schoology for Parents, that top on the app.schoology.com is how, as a parent, you're going to look. If you are not going to that and you're logging in through fc51.schoology.com, you're going to have to know your students' Google information to log in to see it from their perspective. I always go through app.schoology.com. I feel as a parent, I can get everything I need and more without having to log in as my student. I also recommend using the web. I have the app and I can look, and I only use that if I'm doing like a quick, I just want to see her grade. I always go to the web. I just think it's so much better to look at. It's more organized. I can drop down into windows and really dig in. So if you have the option to look at home on a computer, do it. I understand that sometimes our phones are the easiest, but it is a very different view for a parent if you sign it. I also have 3 kids that have Schoology accounts, and flipping between them on the app is much more difficult than if I get on the web and I can just do the drop down and pick them. So just an idea, if you are using it or if you are new to it, also multiple kids, it might be better on the browser. Parent code, if you are new and your account hasn't been activated yet, your parent code is an Infinite Campus. You can also contact the school to get that code if you need it. Parent view versus student view are different. What I see as a parent is kind of, I always tell the people who come into my building, it's like an overview. It's just like the outline of everything. I can't go in and dig into, like, open her assignments and view her assignments because they're assigned to her Google. They're not assigned to me. So I do think that's one thing that gets parents. Sometimes I'll get emails that say, well, I can't open the assignment. You're not going to be able to open the assignment because it's assigned to your student. Now, if I have my daughter sitting beside me with her Chromebook, she can open it up and I can see it over her shoulder and we can look at it together. So if she does get a grade or something I'm questioning, we can do that together. But from my parent view, it's more of just an overview of this is what all is happening in the classroom.
And with that, like when Amanda was talking about grades, please note that sometimes you will see, like, your child has 5 missing assignments. They may have actually been turned in, but not graded yet. So that is best to reach out to the teacher if you're concerned. It could be that they didn't turn them in. That's very well could be the case, but it could also be that maybe the teacher hasn't released the grade to you yet.
The big thing that I'm going to stress, and that I hope you do as soon as we get off of here, is changing your notifications. We've all kind of touched base on those weekly notifications that come in. You can go into your settings and change those for daily. I highly recommend that. I have mine it comes daily at 4 o'clock because I have elementary schoolers, so I want to give the kids time to get home. But at 4 o'clock, I get an email every single day that shows me everything that's going on, and I love it. Just today, my middle schooler had a nice big red hexagon, which I knew meant something wasn't turned in. And I was like, hey girl, get this done. And she did. She turned it in, and literally the teacher had it on automatic grade. So it's already graded and her grade has already changed because of that one little thing. It's also a good talking point for us. I can really see where she is, and I'm not surprised academically where any of my kids are, or if I get an email from a teacher, I already know it's coming because I can see everything that's happening. It tells me if things are missing at the very bottom and show me what hasn't been turned in, what's missing, what's upcoming. I love it. I don't think I could make it as a parent with local kids not getting that data report. So I highly recommend, if you get on and you can't figure it out, reach out to your building ICRT and they can walk you through how to make that change. I actually even have a handout that I can share with them if they need it, because that is my biggest thing for parents. I think it really is a game changer when you make that change to a daily notification.
Anything else?
I think that's it. All right, but great advice.
All right, great. So next up is Jessica Chalenzia, and she is going to discuss screen time with you, and some of us may jump in as well, but Jessica's taking the lead.
To really research and get some information and really make some guidelines and some recommendations, right, for our students. And so the main idea behind the goal was really to have intentional and mindful use of technology, and working to kind of have a balance between digital, right, looking at the screen.
They have my heart.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You want to speak up?
Okay, all the way up here. All right, hi. No, it's fine. Really, again, just trying to make the balance between digital time, looking at computer screens, right, and then having the paper pencil and being able to still be hands-on. So that was the goal with developing these guidelines. And there is some varying amounts of time depending on what grade level a student is in. So elementary, I know we try and stay between an hour to an hour and a half, depending on, again, what grade level. And then secondary, I think it's about half
After
the
class
period,
Yeah, no, no, no.
no more than half. So again, really trying to strike that balance and trying to make the technology use meaningful and really focus on student creation of projects and things like that online.
We really want to get to the point that the kids are creating versus consuming. And consuming is just taking a test, looking at something, watching a YouTube video. We want them to actually learn how to create. We do understand with those screen time recommendations of no more than an hour to an hour and a half, or no more than half a class period. We do understand that if a teacher is giving a test, it may take longer than half the class, or it may take the whole hour and a half, whatever the case might be, whether it's a state growth assessment or a required test that we have to give. We don't factor that in to that screen time. But we do ask if they do give a test, whether it's a state mandated one, a district mandated one, or just the teacher giving one, that they give the kids a brain break. Like, okay, you spent 45 minutes on your computer doing this, take a break, and let's move on and do something else. Ms. Stafford, do you have anything additional that you wanted to add?
No, I think Jessica pretty much spelled it out. And again, as Mrs. Ferris said, you know, the assessments and required programs aren't included in those guidelines. And, you know, teachers do have some leeway. So if there is a big project that, you know, the students have to do and it does require the device, you know, they can allot, you know, a little bit of extra time for that. But then maybe like the next day, you know, they would just kind of compensate for that time and maybe do something else that's more hands-on rather than going on the device. So it's just trying to teach our students that there's a balance between being present in the real world and then also, you know, working on your device. You know, because we do want to give them that opportunity to have a human connection and presence in their classroom and in their environment, but also understand that, you know, our technology is a great tool to help us, you know, kind of problem solve, a tool that can, you know, help us learn more, but we want to have that balance.
And then just as a caveat to this, the CTE courses that are computer-based, such as keyboarding, graphic arts, they are, I don't want to say exempt, but they're half the time they don't. Because some of those courses are in a computer course. So if you're in 8th grade, make it your business, then you would need to be on your computer the whole class period likely. If you're in high school, Adobe, you know, and you're learning how to create a video and graphic arts course, That is not, that's an exception. Those are some exceptions to the rule. Are there any questions, Michelle?
There are not. Oh, we just had one come in. Is there a standard for how teachers use schools? Say that, they have 3 students at 2 schools. Does the dashboard look the same? And do they all use the calendar?
So the calendar, I don't believe has been required at this point. It is something that we highly recommend that teachers add everything to it. Teachers have certain requirements that they're supposed to use in Schoology. Some go beyond, and those are the ones that we want to see that go and put tests in there, that put documents in there. But teachers are required to keep their grades in Schoology. They are required to put important documents in there, such as at the secondary level, a syllabus. At the elementary level, it might be something like, classroom, discipline, or all those things that they would send home at the beginning of the year should be in a folder for you all to see, as well as your students. But we do have some teachers who go above and beyond. Everything that they do is, here's the slideshow that we covered in class, it's on there. We're doing a test and we're doing it in Schoology, that would be on there. So there are going to be differences based on the level of comfort that a teacher has, and then those who are very digitally based on that side of things. And then you're going to have those that are more, okay, I've covered, I'm hit with the basics. I will look into the calendar situation because I do believe that is something that is incredibly valuable, that everything's on that calendar.
I think
Thank you,
that
yeah.
would also be elementary and middle, they're gonna see a difference.
Thank you. Yeah. Amanda, do you want to talk about that?
There's 2 different views in Schoology that you can do. There's an elementary and a secondary. So if you sign in, you have an elementary school, or if the teacher has changed the view of it for students, it's more pictures, more graphic, more kind of straightforward, which is easier for little ones. So if you have like a kindergarten or first grader and they're using that view, it might look different than if you log in and have a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader who it's more of a structured view of folders. And
Is that the same for parents? Parents also see that more straightforward view?
on a sec for a parent when they sign
Yeah.
in.
Okay, so parents, you would see the elementary view as well. And I know that is something that is that Ms. Trenzia responded that since she's an elementary ITRT, but I think that is encouraged at that level.
Definitely, it's just, it's more user friendly for our younger students, like Ms. Griffin was saying, more graphic, less text on the screen, so it's just a little bit more user friendly to find and navigate.
And I would say, I don't know what I was going to say. I apologize. I had something in my head and I'm like, okay. Oh, elementary, K2, they're just starting to be something that is required of them to utilize Schoology more and more. It is something that you've just kind of started thinking, okay, it needs to be at that level as well. So if you have a K2 student, it is going to be a slow but steady improvement and increase in use of it. But in terms of some of the basic requirements, you should be seeing that information. If you need more clarification, please go ahead and put something in the chat. I can answer that.
I will say I saw a huge jump for my kids at 3rd grade. So we have a 3rd grader this year, and it went from just like every now and then usage to it is all about Schoology. So I think once you get to 3rd grade, that's when you're going to see a huge upload of stuff on Schoology.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind too with K2 at that grade, I think a lot of the activities are probably going to be more hands-on and less probably on Schoology doing assignments in there. I'm sure they'll have a few, but I think a lot of it for the K2 is going to be more hands-on activities.
You're going to start seeing more and more of a use at the secondary level of a Google assignment where the kids are turning something in using Google Docs or Google Slides than you would at the younger levels. But again, at the very least, you should be seeing grades and some documentation that comes home to you. And this is, I think, a third year. I think it's our 3rd year with the use of Schoology. So we're still growing too, and we reevaluate the requirements every year. So, any additional questions?
And this is the portion, we have about 15 minutes remaining. That if you have any other questions, if there's anything that we haven't been able to cover for you tonight, that you'd like to ask in the chat, this is your chance.
And it could be something technology related, but not anything that we covered tonight too. You may have.
Right, anything that, with a question that you might have that wasn't covered. Put it in the chat. Couple of seconds. And we do know that the fireside chat is going to also be happening in 15 minutes at Fauquier High School's auditorium. So we welcome you to come on down and watch that with us.
Which is about the anxious generation, which is somewhat of like a tie into our screen time discussion.
Thank you. You guys did an excellent job covering all the questions that everybody has, and we thank you for joining us tonight. Remember, these webinars are going to be happening monthly. Our goal is to have one in October. So be on the lookout for notifications and advertisements for our October family webinar coming up. And we hope you'll join us again. And maybe we'll see you shortly at the fireside chat.
Thank you for coming. And if you have
Thank you.
any tech questions that you think about later tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out to your school ITRT or Ms. Stafford or myself, or available by email or however, so we can try to answer those questions. But in some cases, your best bet is your school ITRT because they really handle all what's going on in their building. Okay.
And
Thank you.
this recording will be shared on our Fauquier Highlights newsletter. So be on the lookout for that. You'd like to share.
We won't be watching.
We appreciate you coming out and have a wonderful, safe
Thank you.